their first game of the evening by large scores, and Hexx has been playing much better ever since the Westchester TOC. So what you're going to see tonight is Chicago-style 16-inch softball, which means we won't be wearing the gloves. The rules are pretty easy. 60-foot bases, you can lead off, but you can't steal. 38 feet from the pitching rubber to the point of home plate. We have a 6-12 on the arc. Because we're playing no glove, the pitcher will get a drag step, one step right, left, or back. 2 fakes or hesitation. Third arm action has to be to deliver the ball home. And a throw or a fake toward the base is one of your fakes or hesitations. We do swing heavy bats. They can weigh up to 38 ounces, 34 inches long, 2 1/4 on the barrel. And you cannot hit a foul ball with 2 strikes, decent amount of foul territory, and no fences. So it's going to be all you can get if they hit something into the gap. No, not for this. Only in a tournament with the Game Changer, Jeff. So should be a pretty good tussle. And we got Signature wearing the fuchsia and black pants. Of course, Q, former Mudville guy, having to be a rebel, didn't get the memo apparently. He's in all black. So should be a good ball game out here. No wind to speak of. It is cooling down. It'll probably dip just into the 50s at some point during the ball game. So a lot of good stuff. If you didn't get a chance to check out the web page today, or the Facebook page, I should say, we put up the first ever SSA Summer Series team standings. And I thought it was pretty interesting when you look at some of the big dogs buried a little bit in those standings, but it is only one event, so we'll see a lot of movement. And if you didn't get a chance to check out the other stuff we got on there, please do. So here's Jimmy Moretti leading off for Hexx, and takes that pitch outside. So we'll be out in Marshalltown, Iowa this weekend for the newly renamed Joe Court Clincher Classic. Of course, Joe is a longtime fixture in Marshalltown, and hopefully the weather's going to cooperate and they'll be able to get it in without a hitch. So got a lot of stuff going on. Of course, Danny Atkins North-South Challenge coming up next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend, 6th through the 9th. I think Danny was looking for a couple of more teams to get him to 32, so reach out to Danny if you have an interest in playing in that, and I believe 2 Iowa teams are coming in for that, Chuck's and trying to think of who the other team is now as I'm fiddling with my lineup card. So 2-2 count here as Q being pretty careful here to Jimmy Moretti to start the ball game. And there's a little overhand swing, and that's going to drift foul. So 16-inch softball, we generally score that as a strikeout. And it brings up Curtis Ostrom, another guy that had a huge TOC. If you didn't check out the graphics dealing with the current Summer Series leaders, I encourage you to do that. And we're going to be putting a lot of neat stuff up with the Chicago Summer Series. Yeah, Jackson, I got out. I was laughing. I was talking on the phone with my good friend Jackson Perry today. And they got to my floor, and the door opened about 6 inches and stopped. And I was having a minor panic attack, pressing all kinds of buttons, and the door finally opened. And that was the fastest, I think I told Jackson, the fastest I've moved in the last decade to get off of that ride. So Curtis swings, high fly ball, center fielder tracks it. Chuck Regaldo, little can of corn, makes the play, and George Bliss brings up a good point. We also have the Father Time Classic, one-day event out in Oak Lawn run by Francisco Arenas. And George is going to be out there. Hopefully doing a couple of live look-ins and the championship game. I believe they got 3 or 4 50 and over teams, and the rest are B teams. So they set it up in separate brackets. Al Rice, long fly ball. Fleming started back. Now he runs in and makes an awkward sliding catch for out number 3. So no score after a half an inning. Both teams tied at 0. So interesting concept, because whoever comes out of that little 50 and over grouping will play whoever wins the B grouping. So it's young versus old. So that'll be out in Oak Lawn at Centennial Park off of 95th and Nashville. So if you're in the area, they will have concessions there. So stop on by. It's supposed to be a nice day, I believe, on Saturday, and watch a little local softball. And if you get the chance, you can watch a little of the Joe Court Clincher Classic as well during the weekend. So busy times here as the softball season is kicked off in high gear. A lot of 16-inch being played everywhere. I'd like to congratulate Turk and the boys with the Psychopaths for winning out in Yuma last weekend as they beat Slap and Tickle. They also beat Moist, so they surely didn't backdoor their way in. And leading off here is Danny Marston. He'll be followed by Mark Manizzi and then Spencer Mahoney. And there's a swing and a ground ball to third. Nick Kimmer picks it up, and little bobble there. Nick didn't quite square himself. Didn't quite catch the ball clean, so his momentum was taking him towards second, and he tried to throw across his body, and he threw a little sidearm sinker over here. And Greco could not come up with it. Mike Greco, the first baseman. So leadoff man on, and here's Mark Manizzi, and he hits a ground ball to Greco. And it popped up and hit him in the shoulder. Couldn't make the play. First 2 hitters are on. And early in the game here, Hexx has had 2 makeable plays and couldn't make them, and leads to a couple of base runners. And there's a hard ground ball, and that snakes through. It's going to slow down in that grass. Marston scores easily as Mahoney just ground a single up the middle, and it got through. And Signature takes an early 1-0 lead, second and third now, nobody out. So we want to thank Gold Rush and Sweet Buzz, the anchor sponsors. So far, all the feedback. High fly ball by Manizzi. That's going to score run number 2. So Matt Manizzi, sack fly, does advance the runners. First out of the inning, 2-0, and that's going to bring up Dave Navarro, the center fielder. And if you haven't seen this kid run, he's got some terrific wheels. And being a left-hander, you got to be very careful with this kid because he can fly. Left side of the infield playing tight. Right side a little deeper. And Navarro hits a rocket base hit. So Signatures come out of the gate. They take advantage of the two bobbles to put a couple up. And they lead now 3-0. So Sal said 2 outs, and he got immediately corrected by Navarro. So 1 out is correct. And here's Greg Fleming, who's transitioned from the Pharaohs very well, and he leans on it. Long drive, left fielder. Curtis got there, but he couldn't make the catch. Navarro's going to score, and they'll hold Fleming. Now he's going to go. Scahill. So a little deke hesitation by Fleming, And Scahill made a little bit of an error there, mental error, in the sense that he turned, he was going to throw right away. Greg kind of stutter-stepped his way into third, and that little hesitation kind of caught Scahill flat-footed, and the throw was not accurate. And now 5-0. And here's Chris, hits a long drive to center, backing up on that and making the catch, Frank Peroni. But 5 runs in for Signature here in the bottom of the 5th as they jump out to a big lead. That's going to bring up Brian Haas playing third today. And we talked about the fact that Brian is a versatile infielder. He's kind of a bigger kid. But through his career, we've seen him at third, short center. And there he lashes a hit. Ostrom on the run, gets to it. Haas running all the way is going to make it. Not the prettiest of slides. As he kind of looked like Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer in that cartoon right after Rudolph was born. Flopping around, all limbs. So here's Marco Kozel, little ground ball foul. Kozel, I believe, hit 600 over the past weekend, off to a pretty good start. And we were talking about some of those summer series stats. So 2 out, 6 run, sitting there at second base here. And Kozel grounds it up the middle, base hit. Charging is Perone. Haas is going to try it. He'll score. And Marco Kozel will slide into second. So a couple of, little not sharp mentally here defensively for Hexx. The first 2 hitters reached on playable balls, and that's opened up the floodgates here. So some of the stats were pretty incredible. That Circus team played 9 games over the weekend. They had guys that had close to 40 at-bats over the weekend. And they scored 105 runs, I believe. The run differential was insane. It was like 60. And by the way, the second highest run differential team last weekend was Flashback, who won the tournament. So here's Enrique Munoz over to Scahill, and mercifully, the inning comes to a close, but Signature bats 10, 6 score, and we head to the top of the second, 6-0, Signature. Coming in 12. Well, Advocate, which used to be Christ Hospital, is only about 3 miles from the facility. So if they need something, we'll be able to get them some help. So Signature off to a good start, even though they went out on Saturday at the TOC. Since then, their league play has been much improved. It looks like they're starting to hit the ball, and Hexx, who we had made a comment on an earlier stream this year, didn't look like they had their offense quite in gear, but they've been scoring a lot of runs, and they did finish 4th at the TOC. So here's Rob Scahill, and Rob tries to go the other way, and he fouls that off. Well, we're glad you joined us, Ray. And I always talk about wind and everything else, but very calm. You can see that flagpole right in the middle of your picture there, and the flag is straight down. So even though it's gotten a little cooler, it's no issue here tonight. It's actually a good day to be swinging the bat. So I fully expect that Hexx will mount some form of challenge in this game. They've just been swinging it too good not to. And Scahill, little fly ball. Navarro, that is Navarro. I think I called him Chuck earlier. Short order of that. And it's going to bring up Richie Battistoni. Mike Greco on deck. So this is the second game both teams have played. So both of them are warmed up. Sometimes when we see in some leagues where a team will have back-to-back games and the team they play the second game has a doubleheader, but they're playing the second and the third game. And there's a ground ball to Menizzi. And, of course, talk all the time about how Mark, one of the more solid, dependable second basemen in the game. And I don't know if you caught that on the video, but Mark went down on one knee, made sure he made the catch, and he took a quick peek up, and he knows Richie, with Richie running, he had a lot of time, and he just didn't rush it. He made a good, strong throw. And I tell infielders all the time, know the base runner, know how much time you got, because that seems to be one of the biggest. And there's a swing by Greco, and Navarro cruises back, and they go 1, 2, 3. So 6 up, 6 down for Hexx in this ball game. We head to the bottom of the 6, 6-0. So now it looks like they might have made a change. They had Jimmy Moretti playing second in the first inning, and it looks like he slid over to short center, and they got young Jack Doss now from short center over to second. And it's a misnomer. Sometimes 16-inch teams think they can bury maybe a slower player at second. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because I always thought your second baseman had to have great range. Because look at all this ground he's got to cover. And Marston strokes a line drive. Al Rice cruises in. So as I was saying, when Jimmy Moretti's on the left side, if you're the second baseman, you got a huge hole over here. And then you got Greco, of course. So for those of you who are managers and you think you can hide a guy at second against a good hitting team, you really can't. So here's Menizzi. A little better start here to the bottom of the second than what Hexx had in the bottom of the first. So I'm trying to figure out who Hexx might be missing tonight. And there's a swing, and he dumps another hit. And he's going to cruise into second. Mark is a deceptive hitter. He doesn't really go long on you, but he's got the capability once in a while. And the grass looks like it's playing real slow tonight. And he dumped that into left center. Didn't really get deep in a gap, but didn't really roll out there quickly either. And Spencer goes opposite, and Curtis makes the catch. No tag. And that'll be... Been noticing Spencer's been going the other way quite a bit this year. I was pulling his leg last night. Forest Park, I said Jackson Perry and pick Chris Pikulis went yard at Westchester in the TOC, I said, you're going to let them two guys show you up? And he was laughing. Then I think he told me he like banged one off the fence or something, but Spencer, certainly a great talent. And there's a swing, little base hit, another run scores. It'll be 7-0 Signature. As Mattman as he delivers. It brings up Dave Navarro. As they get the courtesy runner. The brain trust a little slow, letting the umpire know. And there's a strike. And Navarro drives a fly ball. Perone on his horse makes the catch. So a little better for Hexx in the context that they only gave up one. But we head to the top of the third. The bad news is they trail by 7. Well, Brian, I don't know. What I do know is when I played and was actually in shape many moons ago, I didn't want anybody to know how strong I was. So even though I was XL, I used to get 2 X's, and I laugh when I see the guys with the skin-tight pants. Everything I had was baggy. I wanted it to be a surprise. So it's going to be Nick Kimmer, Frank Peroni, and Jack Doss. Hexx looking for their first hit of the ball game as we head to the third. And it's a bad combination when you go a couple innings without a hit. And there's a line drive, but right at Marston, got a good jump. Actually got in front of it. Little bell tie line drive. So what happens is the longer you go without getting a hit or scoring, it weighs on you. And when the other team has already got 7, it's a bad combination. So here's the center fielder, Frank Perone. I don't know if it's Perone or Peroni. If there's any Italians out there, let me know how that should be pronounced. And Frank lashes the first hit of the ball game. Cancel the post game. There will be no hitter tonight. So that brings up Jack Doss with Kyle Schluter on deck. I get him. Only one out here, so Hexx opened the bottom. And there's a second hit as Jack Doss follows Peroni up with a hit. Just hit a missile between that first and second base hole. One out here. If Kyle can reach safely, then you got the top of your order coming up, and this game could be flipped on its ear in a hurry. And that pitch a little deep. 1-1. You're fine. Kyle swings long fly ball. Navarro makes the catch. Peroni did tag. Now the ball gets away, and Peroni's going to steal a run. So the throw was correct to throw it into second there to keep Jack at first, but it was an in-between throw. Marston couldn't handle it. Peroni had stopped. And here's Moretti, and he tries to go down the line, and it drops in front of Kozo. And Doss is going to score, and we got a 7-2 ball game. So Jimmy Moretti walks the dog down the right field line, puts the second run on the board, and it brings up Curtis Ostrom. And I'm not sure if Hexx is gaining anything in this courtesy runner move, but Jimmy Moretti off to a great start. He's a very big part of their offense. So at this point, they try to keep those types of guys healthy, and they'll use courtesies for them. Of course, last weekend at the TOC, there were no courtesy runners. And Curtis pops it up out of play. And a fan walking, doing his laps around the field, couldn't make the catch. I think I might have heard somebody on Hexx say, sign him up. Looked like an elderly gentleman. Two of them. So new life for Curtis. And he guides it into right field, base hit. Kyle's going to get to third, and he'll stop there. And that brings up a very dangerous Al Rice. Now, on a stretch single, this kid in the center of your picture is going to score. And they're going to slow things down here. And Jeff kind of gave Danny Marston the move back sign. I don't know if that was defensive positioning or if that was you don't need to come to the mound thing. I don't know. Now Rice is a bad man with a bat in his hand. So a double here could really start to make the game more interesting. That's why you can never leave a broadcast, folks. Not when the big dogs are playing, because they will try to get back into ball games. So after falling behind 2-0, I think Al was thinking maybe Q was going to try to pitch around him, but he snuck that strike in. And Al swings and he jammed himself. Spencer will glide out and make the play. But in the inning, they do pick up 2 runs, and they do close to 7-2. Big out there for signature, because Rob Scahill was on deck. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to grab a quick swig of water, and we're going to be right back. And we're back, folks, live from Bulger. I'm trying to save my voice for the weekend. Had a little bit of a frog I can't get rid of.
Go G5!
Going to have to talk to Sal about getting out of my line of view here pretty soon. Greg Fleming hits another knuckleball, and Curtis Ostrom makes the catch. That was a little bit of a knuckleball. He hit it straight up in the air, and the ball looked like it was going to get a little further and just came straight down. So here comes the catcher, Chris. Sal, one way or the other, right or left? Well, don't block first base on me. The fans want to see that. All right, there you go. That's why the SSA functions. We work together. So here's Chris trying to start something up. And if you're Signature, you've got the lead here, but Hexx showed some signs of life, so you don't want to just sit on a number. And he draws a one-out walk, and that's going to bring up Brian Haas. And Brian's got a little thump in his bat, a little more than people think, and that's like a 2-iron in the gap there. He just went down and dropped the head on it and golfed it into the gap for a triple, and Signature gets one of those 2 runs back. That was a pretty swing there by Brian Haas. Like I said, he just dropped the head on it and smoked it into the gap. And here's Marco. And he golfs a shot into right, but Al Rice is there. Throw to the plate won't be in time, and they get both of those 2 runs back here as they reestablish the 7-run lead at 9-2. And that's going to bring up Enrique Munoz. Danny Marston on deck. Danny led off the first and the second. Should Q not extend the inning, he'll be leading off the 4th. And even though he's their leadoff guy, you don't normally see him leading off. You know, usually they lead off once, maybe twice in a game. You don't normally see him leading off 3 or 4 times in a game. Well, he won't be leading off in the 4th, as he'll get a crack here in the 3rd. So I got to say it. Of course, Q played on Mudville. So Kozel will be the courtesy runner. And there's a high fly ball. Al Rice will measure it and put it away for out number 3. So we head to the top of the 4th, 9-2 Signature. Again, the big inning was the 5-run first, or I think it was a 6-run first, and first 2 hitters that inning should have been out, but the Hexx defense was a little shaky to start the game, and that opened the door, and they've been playing catch-up ever since. So it's going to be Rob Scahill, Richie Battistoni, and Mike Greco. We're not quite halfway through the ball game, but if you're Hexx, you need to continue that trend, what they did last inning. Well, Al is deceptive in right field. He does have a good arm. And when we live streamed, I want to say it was the money line game in the TOC, he had a rough first inning defensively, and then after that he was a maniac out there. And you could tell that he takes a lot of pride in his game. And Scahill, a little ground ball to Manizzi for the out. So who are you playing with this year, Brady? Are you a part of that Chuck's merger with Old Timers? And I am pretty excited to get out to Marshalltown. I do want to eyeball that Chuck's team. And, of course, Brady, an elite defender in left field. And there's a ground ball over to Haas, throwing the dirt and tag him on the way by. And Manizzi got twisted up there. Kept his wits about him, though, recovered and made the tag. 2 outs. And that's going to bring up Mike Greco. All my peeps in Iowa are telling me Chuck's is absolutely stacked. Since the SSA has started, we've had a couple of Iowa teams win the Class A Glove National Championship. There's a sky-high fly ball coming in as Navarro, and he puts it away for out number 3. So Hexx continues to sputter a little bit offensively. And we've had several teams from Washington Park win national championships since the SSA's come into existence. But we have not seen an Iowa team break through yet at the major level. So we'll see if this is the year that maybe Chuck's can do that. Had some conversations with Ben Happel and Kirk Hewen about that team over the winter, and Ben in particular thought that they were extremely focused. They were practicing in the winter, and the word is they're going to be highly committed this year. So that's going to bring up Mark Menizzi. Two, 3, 4 coming up here for signature with Spencer Mahoney and Matt Menizzi scheduled to hit as well this inning. And there's a little flare the other way. Ostrom is there and he puts it away. For the first out of the inning. Keep waiting for Spencer to start turning and burning a little bit more. Yeah, I moved off the line. Sal was giving me a heads up saying, watch what he does. And there has been a change now as they put Battistoni up the middle, and Jimmy Moretti is now on the hill. And there's a little flare the other way. Curtis Ostrom makes the catch. Now Spencer's got a lot of swings in the golf bag. Sometimes as a manager, when you get a kid that's so talented, you know, your tendency sometimes is not to want to talk to him. But he's got such a beautiful pull swing and hard swing toward right center that you'd like to see him kind of go to that a little bit more and get locked in and then expand from there. So 2 up, 2 down here as we are just a little bit more than halfway through the ball game. And there's Al. That ball's dancing into the gap. Ostrom got there, flipped it over to the center fielder, who fired it in, kept Menizzi from thinking about going to third, but and I tell you, Menizzi's swinging it real well right now. He's not trying to get cute. He's just barreling up and hitting hard humpbacks all over the place. So that's going to bring up Dave Navarro, center fielder. I'd like to see Dave hit one in the gap so you guys can see how quick he is. And Molly, I don't think you can call Richie a mountain man because he doesn't have a beard. Takes that pitch a little inside. And there's a swing and a high fly ball, and Curtis is there. And that'll be the third out. So we head to the top of the fifth. Snappy ball game, 9-2. Signature leading Hexx. Not sure. Not sure who Impact is playing down there, but I believe they're losing on the other diamond. Impact actually hung in there with Iron yesterday. They're so young. And a lot of those guys have never played at this level. So they got a lot of kids with learning on the job, as they say. And there's a little spinner. Haas can't get to it. So it was good to see some of the guys out here hanging out. Pat Caputo, Joe Polito, to mention two of them. And there's a hard slasher. Haas, a little bounce. And nice hands by Chris over here at first. Chris was catching, and they moved him over to first. Brian Haas slapped that line drive down, dribbled it like a basketball. Looked like the throw might be high, but Chris went up there and snagged it. So this is the second time we've had Q on the live stream. Pitched a good ball game the last time we had him, and is coming through and pitching a solid one here. Peroni, high fly ball. Fleming is there. And Navarro, the youngster, both of those kids new to the team this year. I believe Navarro came over from Iron. And center fielder deferred to Fleming. 2 outs, and here's Jack Doss. I'm always intrigued by how guys are between innings. And Jack throws his second hit, this time toward the gap. He thought about going. Kozo got on it with a spinning throw right on the mark to keep him to a long single. Curtis Ostrom is one of those guys. He brings his, like his folding chair or his lawn chair, and he always puts it in the corner of the dugout, and he sits in it between innings instead of the bench. So here's Kyle. And I'm sure that Hexx would like to get to that top with a couple of base runners here, down 7, top of the 5th. Kyle, sky-high fly ball. Marston called it all the way, made the catch. So we head to the bottom of the 5th, 9-2. Hexx showed a little life that one inning. Couldn't get a hit from Al Rice, where they could have maybe, that time they had cut it to 7-2. And the last 2 innings ever since, they've been relatively quiet. So we talk about defense all the time, and when your defense lets you down, it's just hard to recover from that. So Greg Fleming leading off here. Be followed by Chris and then Brian Haas. You might have heard Mike Greco voicing a little concern about Jimmy. It doesn't look like they got anybody on their bench. And the rule is, whatever you start with, you can finish with less if it's an injury and you don't have anybody to put in. But if you finish with less because of an ejection, then it's a forfeit. So Greg Fleming leads off with a little slap past the pitcher into center field, and it brings up Chris.
We say 2-5.
And there's a ground ball up the middle, and that's going to sneak through. And Greg Fleming easily into third. We are in the bottom of the fifth. Should signature plate 3, the game would be over via the mercy rule. Again, we are live from Bulger Park. Game of the week. It's been all signature. And Haas slaps a hit past Scale. 1 run scores. And that's going to make it 10-2. Still nobody out here. This guy, Brian Haas, at first would be the game winner. Brings up Marco Kozel. And there's a little ground ball, might be 2, Scale to Battistoni to Greco. And they twist. And that'll be 2 outs, and it looks like they're hitting for Enrique Munoz with Donnie Rollins. So Jimmy's trying to get Jack Doss to slide up the middle, as they're basically playing him like a right-handed pull hitter. And Danny Marston on deck. And that ball is fouled down the right field line. Tried to inside out it, let the ball get a little too deep. You got to be on the roster. Coaches are not on the roster unless they're in a slot for where you put your players. And aside from the manager, coaches aren't even listed on the roster form. So Jimmy Moretti here. And he got him to bite on a low fastball. And Jack Doss can't make the play. There's a little slow roller. He had all kinds of time. Looked like he stood up a little too quick. And they didn't make the play. Another play does score.
Come on, Danny. Come on, Danny.
Makes it 11-2. Now, Kozel can run a little bit. There are 2 outs. Anything hit, long stretch single we talk about, could end the ball game. Jimmy tried a pickoff move. I thought I saw Greco call a fair catch on that throw.
Come on, Danny. Find a strike here.
It was so high. And 2-1 with Mark Menizzi on deck, who's been swinging it good tonight. And Marston hits it out toward the gap, and this ball game is over. This ball game is over as Kozel scores on a, I guess in the books what you'd call that would be a triple. Because technically, in order for him to score from first as a scorekeeper, you'd mark that as a triple. So Danny Marston ends it. They walk off Hexx, 12-2 ball game. So we're going to be at some point somewhere online over the weekend for the Joe Court Clincher Classic, newly named. And George Bliss will be out in Oak Lawn showing you the Father Time Classic. And of course, next week, we'll be rolling into the North-South Tournament, another Chicago Summer Series event. So, of course, after that, we'll be doing a preview show and a post-game show, and we'll be bringing you updated statistics and team standings and everything else. So everybody who's sent us feedback on that, we appreciate it. We love you guys. Be safe. On behalf of Gold Rush Gaming, Sweet Buzz, one of our anchor sponsors for the Chicago Summer Series, we thank you for tuning in, and we will talk to you all soon.